Why Craig Breslow has to be fired if he drops the ball this offseason.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's free. So make sure you head to it today and every day because Locked On is always here for you. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Sound intriguing to you? I promise I'll tell you a lot more about that later on in today's show, but Craig Breslow is most certainly on the hot seat this offseason. He took a lot of backlash at the trade deadline for the lack of moves that he made. On today's show, I'm going to be dissecting Craig Breslow's job and what he truly has to do in order to secure it after this offseason, plus a discussion on the Red Sox outfield. Minus Roman Anthony and the fact that he just is an absolute stud and is the face of the franchise moving forward. No big deal. The guy that the Red Sox are going to continue to build their team around. Not much to say there other than the fact that he's a superstar. And when he got hurt, it really hurt the Red Sox a lot in multiple ways. So I'm very excited to see his growth in 2026. But I'm going to have a discussion on Jaren Duran versus Wilyer Abreu. What exactly are the positive and negative aspects of each of their game? And what exactly would the Red Sox be losing if they were to trade one of those two? As well as evaluating Ceddanne Rafaela. Where's he at going into 2026? So the Red Sox roster right now has a lot of guys who are certainly fun to watch. And a lot of guys who made a statement in 2025 in terms of their ability to succeed again at the highest level, even better off in 2026. And you look at a guy like Brayan Bello, who's going to be called upon to be a huge part of the starting rotation. And going into the 2025 season, Craig Breslow wanted to bank on a guy like Bello because he knew that he had the potential to be a guy who could excel in the rotation. Now, certainly Brayan Bello has continued to show improvements year over year in his time with the Boston Red Sox so far. And he truly is at the point now where he's a solid #3 starter, but he's not much more than that. So it is on Craig Breslow to go out and acquire a #2 starting pitcher this offseason. Why I feel confident in his ability to be able to do that and his desire to want to do that, because he was not afraid to pull the trigger when it came to acquiring Garrett Crochet. Craig Breslow brought in Crochet to be the ace of this pitching staff, went and extended him to secure that he's going to be the ace for years to come. And then he went out there in 2025 and did everything the Red Sox needed him to do and more. You do that trade 10 times over if you go back again. No question about it. You make that trade every time because Garrett Crochet truly is a game changer for this rotation. Now, Breslow has to work that magic again. And at the 2025 trade deadline, Craig Breslow underwhelmed. There were other teams in the American League around the Red Sox that were making big moves, impactful moves, to help make a deep playoff run. And the Red Sox really didn't do much other than acquire 2 pitchers. Dustin May, who's hardly a #2 starting pitcher, not even somebody who can even stay in the rotation regularly, even as a #5, because he's just hurt a lot. And when he is pitching, as we saw, he's inconsistent. Acquired Steven Matz, who I will give it to Breslow, was pretty good out of the Red Sox pen and was a nice addition. But the thing was that going into the postseason, the bullpen wasn't the biggest concern for this Boston Red Sox team. They led the American League in bullpen ERA. That wasn't exactly the concern that we had going in. It was more the starting pitching and the fact that the Red Sox didn't really have that #2 starter to put behind Crochet. So Now we're left in a spot to where they need to make impactful moves. Breslow went and traded away Rafael Devers in June. A lot of people said they wouldn't forgive him after that. He explained that the reason was because he felt like it was better for the Red Sox future. And then he said, we feel like we'll win more games without him than we would have with him, essentially in so many words. He didn't word it like that, but that's essentially what he was saying. So naturally, thinking that he would do something about it, a lot of people, myself included, were inclined to believe that he was going to go out there and replace Devers' bat at the trade deadline. And he didn't. So that left a lot of critique of what exactly does Craig Breslow feel about this team? Does he truly believe that they can contend this year? Obviously, they dealt with a ton of injuries in 2025, so I'll give that to them. That's something that held them back for sure and is obviously not Breslow's fault. But at the same time, they were a playoff team, even despite those injuries. So don't you think that had they added a couple pieces, it could have put them in a much better position to make an even deeper playoff run? You really have to wonder what was truly going through Breslow's head at that time. And now here we are in the offseason again. If Craig Breslow approaches this offseason the same way that he did the trade deadline, he absolutely should get fired, because this is now a Red Sox team that has shown with its young talent that it has the capability of being a playoff team. Lots of guys who are still really finding themselves within Major League Baseball, learning their role and figuring out what it's like to be on a playoff caliber team. Now they've gotten a taste of it, and they showed that that core that they've been working so hard to build over the last few years has the potential. Now it's about filling out those guys with veteran proven pieces to put around them that can help give the Red Sox that extra boost. My worry with Craig Breslow and company is that they might be afraid to go all out because of the fact that they have been hesitant to go all out over the last few seasons. They've made moves, but they haven't truly done a whole lot that really screams, we're not messing around. The big thing that they did do was when they brought in Garrett Crochet, and then they extended Roman Anthony, and they're clearly trying to prove that they're interested in extending their young players when they feel like it's worth it. However, that can only take you so far if you're not willing to add to that. Because yes, having Roman Anthony now as the franchise player for years to come is great, but how good does that really do from a competitive standpoint if you're just relying on that and you're not helping him out by putting other pieces around him? There's two different versions of Craig Breslow that we could get this offseason. We could get 2024 offseason Craig Breslow, or we can get the trade deadline version of Craig Breslow. And if we get that trade deadline version of Breslow, where maybe he brings in a starting pitcher who's hit or miss, could arguably be a number 4 or 5 starter, but isn't a defined number 2. If he rolls with what he has offensively, they bring back Alex Bregman, but they still don't bring in another bat. That is a fireable offense, because yes, Alex Bregman was a good boost for this Red Sox team, especially off the field, but also on the field. Statistically, especially prior to his injury, he was one of the most consistent bats that the Red Sox had in the lineup. Obviously, he struggled a lot in the last couple months of the season, which hopefully he could turn that around going into 2026. So ultimately, if they were to bring him back, then yes, he would be a big bat they would have in their lineup, but they still need more than that, because the combination of he and Roman Anthony cannot be solely relied on to get the job done and be those hitters that other teams fear. Other playoff teams this year had hitters that people feared. The Red Sox didn't really have that. If Craig Breslow approaches this offseason and says, yeah, well, we did what we could. We brought back Alex Bregman. We know how good he was for our team last year. And you roll out the lineup without another strong bat to couple with him. That is a huge, huge drop of the ball. Roman Anthony, while I know he's going to be a stud and is going to be the face of this franchise for years to come, is not at that level yet to where you can 100% count on him to fool opposing pitchers consistently. He still needs work with the off-speed pitches, and he struggles with left-handed pitching. You cannot go and rely on him in that heavily of a way to turn into the next Devers for the team right now when he still has things to learn and work on. And that's fine that he does. He's still really young. But if Craig Breslow's approach to this offseason is we're going to bank on what we have internally, that's a fireable offense. That's not putting your team in the best position to succeed at the highest level. That's saying, okay, we're going to roll the dice on Brian Bayo maybe turning into a number 2, or if he doesn't turn into a number 2, hopefully Connolly Early, Peyton Tolley, or Kyle Harrison, or Cutter Crawford, somebody from that group can turn into a number 2. And again, no disrespect to those guys, but it's been such a small sample size that we have seen those guys. Such a small sample size. So that would be the Red Sox mentality, and that would be such a Red Sox thing of really post-2018 to do, is to just gamble on what you have internally. And in a way, I respect the gambling on people internally because you want to show that you believe in your homegrown stars. Because what else are we really doing if you're not believing in guys you're developing through your system? They have to show that they believe in those guys. And by allowing guys like Peyton Tolley and Connolly Early to prosper, they are doing that, but they can do that without relying on one of them to be a number 2 starting pitcher. There's a huge difference between saying, okay, we like these guys. We feel like they could be part of the rotation, so we're going to let them grow in the rotation. There's a difference between saying that and saying we really need one of these guys to be our number 2. And the Red Sox have taken that approach as of late. So that's something that absolutely has to change. They need to get a bat to replace Devers' productivity in the lineup because of the fact that they lacked a lot of home runs and a lot of power overall as a lineup. So this offseason needs to be a big one for Craig Breslow. Ever since the trade deadline, he has been placed on the hot seat, and he still is. I firmly believe that if this offseason in any capacity lets people down, Breslow's not the guy for the job moving forward for the Boston Red Sox front office. And if he wants to show that he is the guy for the job, he has to ace and nail some of these trades that he's going to make, including a trade for an outfielder. Which one could it be? If you're looking to score last-minute tickets to any live event, Game Time 100% has you covered. I actually used Game Time the other day to get tickets with some of my friends to the Patriots Thursday night football game. And there are so many good deals on Game Time compared to other ticketing vendors. And it shows you the exact view from your seat so that you know that it's not obstructed and you know that you're going to have a good experience, because there's nothing worse than going and sitting somewhere where your view is blocked. So Game Time assures that that doesn't happen. I love zone deals too. You just pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. And it makes sure those are always good seats. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. It's truly a game changer, I promise you. Who's going to be traded this offseason? Is it going to be Jaren Duran or Wilyer Abreu? That's a big, big question going into this offseason, because it's very apparent that the Red Sox need to trade an outfielder. Their outfield right now is overcrowded, but it's a good problem to have because they're all super talented, and there's no way that they can possibly keep all of them and justify it making sense when they could trade one of them and flip them for strong pitching. Now, that outfielder that they're going to move is obviously not going to be Roman Anthony. He is the face of the franchise. He's the guy they are going to continue to build around. He's the guy that they have had much anticipation about, that they were excited to see come up to the majors before he got called up. So that's just not happening. Then there's Ceddanne Rafaela, another guy who the Red Sox have extended, a guy that they very clearly believe in, especially defensively, because statistically, he's one of, if not the best defensive center fielder in baseball. There's no doubt about that. And his offense needs to catch up, which I'm going to be talking about a little bit later on today's show. But the fact that the Red Sox have offered him an extension and they haven't done that with Duran or Abreu, shows that they believe in Rafaela and they probably want him in center field on a more permanent basis. So now that leaves Jaren Duran and Wilyer Abreu, because there's also Masataka Yoshida, who's a wild card in all of this because he's technically an outfielder, but the Red Sox don't really have him play in the field anymore because he can't be trusted to play defensively. So they've primarily been DHing him. So he's probably out because there's not really a feasible way for them to find a trade partner for him unless the Red Sox eat a lot of that contract. So the chances are that Yoshida will still be here in 2026, primarily probably serving as a DH or a platoon DH in some capacity. So if you look at Jaren Duran and Wilyer Abreu realistically, they have some similarities, they have some differences, and they both have aspects of their game that are intriguing and aspects of their game that need work. So Jaren Duran obviously has elite speed. One of the fastest players in Major League Baseball, no doubt about it. So his speed on the base paths is going to be valuable no matter what. Even if the Red Sox trade him, he's going to get opportunities with another team because every team could use that kind of speed to be able to help manufacture runs. So that's something that Jaren Duran has going for him that not a lot of other players in the sport have going for them. He also has a lot of raw power. Believe it or not, Jaren Duran's power certainly is there. In 2025, he was in the 71st percentile in hard hit percentage and the 87th percentile in average exit velocity. So he does hit the ball hard. So for a team that lacks that power, that could be tough to lose if they lose Jaren Duran. Now, he also had a really good 2024 season where he was the Red Sox leader in doubles, triples, and extra bases. That is a good point, too, because he is somebody who always can turn singles into doubles, doubles into triples, etc. And that's a skill set that not everybody has. And that's why he has such a variety of hits on his resume, because he's able to turn some of those hits into extra bases for him, which you don't really see everybody do as consistently as he does. So that goes right back over to the speed. He has a really good read on the base paths, and he's able to gauge if he can make it to the next base or not on contact that he makes. That's a big skill. Also, he's considered a valuable clubhouse presence, which is something that's super important too. And that's why I was always so defensive of Alex Bregman, because he just has this veteran leadership presence that goes unmatched. And when you have a team that's full of primarily young players, you want a guy like that to step up and be a good leader. And Jaren Duran is somebody who has always carried himself in that way with the clubhouse of being this positive presence and being a guy who can kind of keep the clubhouse vibes high. So that would be a tough thing to lose. Now, when you go to his weaknesses, his stats show increasing strikeouts and less contact compared to 2024. Now, Jaren Duran in 2025, in strikeout percentage, he was in the 30th percentile in strikeouts, which is very, very bad. Now, usually when you're considered poor in that category, it essentially means that you're a lot worse than other players in the league at that. So that means he was striking out in 2025 a lot more than other players. Now, the difference in 2024, he was in the 48th percentile in strikeout percentage. So obviously, he got worse in that category and was striking out a lot more in 2025. That's not a good pattern to trend in. If that's the pattern, he continues to get worse and worse with the swings and misses and the strikeouts, he's going to lack that ability to get those big hits when the Red Sox need him to, because it's going to be very difficult for him to remain plate disciplined. And I've always respected Jaren Duran being aggressive, but sometimes it does hurt him. So because of the fact that his offense decreased a lot in 2025 compared to 2024, there's a reason why the Red Sox would want to trade him, and that's because they don't feel like his bat is valuable enough for them moving forward, but they could sell another team on him because of the fact that he has a lot of other aspects of his game that are strong, particularly that speed that could be a game changer for a team maybe looking to have more athleticism in their lineup. So then you go to Wilyer Abreu, who's an elite defensive right fielder with now 2 Gold Glove awards because he won it in both 2024 and 2025. He's a much more powerful hitter than Duran and has a better track record against the left-handed pitching. Now, Wilyer Abreu in 2025 was in the 67th percentile in walk rate, which is above average, and in the 32nd percentile in strikeout percentage. So he did walk a lot, but he also did have his fair share of strikeouts as well, which is something that both he and Duran struggled with. Average exit velocity, 66th percentile, hard hit percentage in just the 59th percentile, but overall the raw power is definitely there. Those numbers got a little bit skewed after he came back from injury because he just wasn't hitting as well in the later part of the season. But that's a key to all of this too, is he took a decline offensively in terms of his production towards the end of the season. He had a really hot start to the year, and then he got hurt and then kind of declined. So going into 2026, the hard thing to navigate is going to be, what kind of hitter are we looking at? Are we looking at the first half Wilyer Abreu or the second half Wilyer Abreu? And that's something that the Red Sox are going to have to bank on if they do decide to keep Wilyer around and trade Jaren Duran. They're going to have to bank on him returning to form from what we saw in the first half of 2025 when it comes to him. Now, when it comes to that decision, because now you have 2 players who both have their strengths and weaknesses. If the Red Sox were to trade Wilyer Abreu, they could easily sell the defense, and there would be a lot of upside there probably to a lot of teams because they've seen how good of a defender he is in right field. And also the fact that besides that bump in the road that he hit in the last couple months of 2025, he overall has been a really good, consistent hitter for the Red Sox in his time here. So that's an interesting scenario because the Red Sox could probably get more for Wilyer Abreu than they could for Jaren Duran right now if you're looking at overall what they both brought to the table in 2025. But from a Red Sox future standpoint, selfishly, I want them to be able to feel like they have the better hitters in the lineup. And overall, based on offensive numbers as a whole, I would trust Wilyer Abreu's offense a lot more than I would trust Jaren Duran's offense in a big spot. And I'm willing to cut Wilyer some slack because of the injuries that he dealt with. Jaren Duran just consistently couldn't figure it out offensively as much in 2025 as a whole. And plus, with the Red Sox outfield being a difficult outfield to play, it would be very hurtful to lose Abreu's defense out there, because if you have Abreu and Rafaela both out there, you have 2 of the best defenders in the sport in your outfield, a very difficult outfield to play. So that's primarily why I'm also leaning more towards trading Jaren Duran, because yes, you would lose some speed, but you can justify that by saying you still have speed on the roster. Trevor Story's coming back, the guy who broke an American League record for stolen bases in 2025. Ceddanne Rafaela, another speedster on the base paths, is coming back. Nate Eaton, a guy who probably will start the season in AAA, but could get called up to be used as a pinch runner. I mean, David Hamilton. I mean, you're looking at guys who could be used in that type of role to help put pressure on opposing pitchers. And Roman Anthony isn't exactly slow either. So you have options there. So if you trade Duran, yes, you're losing a guy with speed, but ultimately you're doing it because you feel like it's more important to be able to keep a guy like Wilyer Abreu around so that you can have his defense in your outfield. If you put the 2 together from a value perspective, the Red Sox probably would get a bigger return for Wilyer Abreu. But they can really manipulate this by trading Jaren Duran and adding a couple top prospects into the mix to really sweeten the deal. Because if we say we'll give you Jaren Duran plus a couple outfielders that are top prospects in our system, and maybe Connolly early or Peyton Tolley, then you're really looking at a trade that a team might say, okay, we can make that work. I mean, I don't know how we feel about Duran, but those are some good pieces. And then maybe they would be willing to give Duran a shot and hope he figures it out offensively. So they can definitely sell that. It's just a matter of what do the Red Sox prioritize, because their strengths and weaknesses are very different. And their strengths and weaknesses are also very different to Ceddanne Rafaela, who I am going to be discussing next. Are you big into sports betting? If not, it's okay. Either way, you should check out FanDuel because it's a great way to make lots of money betting on different sports between NFL this time of year, NBA, NHL, college sports, if you're into that too. You name it, it's all on FanDuel. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I'm telling you, it's a great way to make lots of money. And also, thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of the day. And most importantly, thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. It truly is a blessing to do this every single day. I really don't know where I would be without all of you. Make sure as your second listen to check out Locked On MLB with host Sully, aka Paul Sullivan, who's hilarious and will break down everything going on across Major League Baseball, especially this time of year with trade rumors and all that going on. Could be a great show to listen to. So after you finish up this, make sure to check out that show next on any podcast platform. There's been a lot of talk about the Boston Red Sox outfield and what it's going to look like going into 2026. Left to right, is it going to be Roman Anthony, Ceddanne Rafaela, and Wilyer Abreu? Is it going to be Roman Anthony, Ceddanne Rafaela, and Jaren Duran? Is Masataka Yoshida going to get more regular playing time in the outfield? It's really hard to know for sure what the Red Sox next move is going to be. So when you look at the Red Sox outfield and they say, okay, we're going to trade one of these guys, most likely, that guy most likely is not going to be Ceddanne Rafaela. Now, the Red Sox extended Ceddanne. So it's pretty clear that they value him as a player, and his defense especially is what they value. He no doubt is one of, if not the best defensive center fielder in the sport. He's in the 94th percentile in arm strength. So it's going to be very difficult moving forward for opposing hitters to run on him because similar to Jackie Bradley Jr., he has the arm. And he's made some insane plays in the outfield because, again, I mentioned his speed earlier. That goes back to that. He has the speed to be able to cover lots of ground in center field at a place like Fenway Park, and it has caused him to rob multiple hits, and I mean multiple, over the course of the 2025 season. So having Ceddanne Rafaela in center field is no doubt going to be very important for the Boston Red Sox. Now, his bat needs to catch up, but his bat definitely has a shot at being a lot better in 2026. Here's why. Now, he took a huge leap offensively from 2024 to 2025. Now, offensively, this is a notable one. He was in the 22nd percentile in strikeout percentage in 2024. In 2025, that jumped all the way up to the 56th percentile. 22nd percentile to 56th over the course of one season. What does that say? That he is being a lot smarter about his swing. 2024, Ceddanne was so swing happy and would swing at literally any pitch that came his way. 2025, Ceddanne, I saw be a little bit more patient, and he'd hold off on pitches that we normally would have seen him swing at in 2024, and it was refreshing to see. And why is that a recipe for success for him? Because he is showing that he has the ability to be more patient and more disciplined at the plate, and that ideally would continue to come more naturally to him. Now, in terms of his walk rate, he was in just the first percentile in walk rate in 2024, essentially saying that he walked basically the least of any player in Major League Baseball. Why? Because he would chase so much and wasn't really willing to take pitches. Now, still not good in that area, 7th percentile in 2025, but that's still a leap, going from basically the worst to then being in the 7th percentile. So he was walking a little bit more in 2025. Plate discipline is the biggest thing for Ceddanne. He can hit the ball hard. He has the ability to hit off-speed pitches. The problem is just that he doesn't execute the right way. His swing decisions are not there. So because his swing decisions aren't there, even when he is hitting the ball, he's making weak contact because he's not swinging at the right pitch. That all stems from his judgment and his ability to hold back on swinging when he can. And Ceddanne is also a very aggressive hitter. We've known this. He wants to be able to get that big hit. And he did in a lot of big moments for the Red Sox in 2025. This isn't to say that his offense is detrimentally terrible to the point where he's never done anything big for this team, because there were several situations in 2025 where he was the guy who put the team on his back and got that big hit when the Red Sox needed it most. So that's great. Now, the question becomes, how do we continue to make sure that he grows and he develops? During spring training, he has to focus a lot on holding back on pitches outside the zone. And the close borderline pitches are what I'm talking about. Obviously, if it's way outside, he knows not to swing. If it's in the dirt, sometimes he does swing. And this is the thing where if it's close and it's hard for him to tell, and he swings, but it ends up being a ball, those are the types of pitches that he needs to focus on this offseason with improving on. But I believe that he's going to continue to grow offensively in 2026 because he's already showing those improvements vastly. He's already showing that he knows that's the root of the problem, and he's working on being a little bit more patient at the plate. If he continues to do that, he is going to do big things in 2026. Now, in 2025, he started off the season really strong offensively. And then after the All-Star break, he kind of fizzled out and started to struggle, and we saw aspects of him that we were more used to seeing in 2024. So granted, yes, he started to show some inconsistencies and some holes at that point. However, it wasn't nearly to the point of lack of plate discipline as it was in 2024. And the fact that he was able to improve in that area should give you lots of hope for 2025. He is a game changer because he is the Red Sox 9 hitter. If he can continue to grow and he can take even more strides in 2026 compared to what we saw in 2025 in that category, he is going to be really good out of the 9 spot. And then suddenly you're feeling like you have a really good 9 hitter. And all of a sudden, then the Red Sox lineup is looking a little bit tougher because rather than feeling like 6 through 9 are automatic outs, now you have a guy in the 9 hole who's going to be tough to beat. And that's what makes World Series lineups that are strong 1 through 9. And maybe you have one hitter in there who's struggling and feels more like an automatic out. But the difference between a World Series team and a non-World Series team is that you don't have multiple hitters who are basically a no-go that are automatic outs every time. If they can get Ceddanne to continue to move up past that level and he can get to the point to where he can be described as a really good hitter for this Boston Red Sox team, that's a game changer out of the 9 spot. So hopefully he continues to develop and improve. I'm really excited to see where he goes in 2026 and what happens for him in his season, because he definitely has a lot of talent and versatility. He just needs to start applying things a little bit more at the plate. So thank you for tuning into Locked On Red Sox. As always, I appreciate you making it your first listen of every single day. And like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.